Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by the Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. Well, don't forget, we'll be at the Pickaway County Fair thanks to Leist Mercantile on Wednesday. Experience you can trust. LeistMercantile.com. Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins on Wednesday told lawmakers an announcement is forthcoming on the USDA's latest steps in keeping New World screwworm and its impacts on cattle out of the country.
As the threat of New World screwworm continues to loom for our nation's cattle producers,
that screwworm had moved from within 1,100 miles of our border to 700 miles of our border within a matter of weeks.
Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins Wednesday gave House lawmakers a heads up.
I'll have a major announcement next week on the very next step on putting the resources, the time, and the effort into continuing to push it back.
Recent USDA efforts in preventing NWS entry into our nation include a ban of live cattle imports from Mexico and renovation of a Mexican sterile fruit fly production facility to help neutralize New World screwworm population growth. The Secretary reiterated concerns of the potential devastation an NWS outbreak would have on the nation's beef supply.
In the 1950s when it hit, it took 30 years for the livestock community to recover from that.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
National Pork Producers Council President Dwayne Statler of Ohio applauded the inclusion of several MPPC animal health priorities in the Senate Ag Committee's reconciliation package. The priorities included funding for the National Animal Vaccine and Veterinary Countermeasures Bank. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association also announced support for cattle health measures in the legislation. The legislation advances support for the National Animal Disease Preparedness and Response Program and the National Animal Health Laboratory Network. USDA's latest topsoil moisture condition report reflects how recent rains have improved conditions from the central and southern plains to the Atlantic coast.
Recent moisture across several parts of the country is reflected in USDA's latest topsoil moisture condition ratings report. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says for the period ending June 8th,
only 21% of the country reporting short to very short topsoil moisture. That is down 3 percentage points from last week's 24%. And the current figure for surplus topsoil moisture is 13%. That is up 1 point from last week's national value of 12%.
Rippey adds several states from the Atlantic coast to the central and southern plains report notable topsoil moisture surplus. In fact,
we have almost eradicated any eastern and southern dryness at this point, still hanging on with just some pockets of dryness, at least through June 8th. Florida coming in at 33% very short to short. That is about it east of the Mississippi for significant dryness concerns, and it's certainly turned for the better in the last couple of weeks in Florida, I think with another week or two of rain.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Rabobank says milk production grew modestly across the Big Seven exporting regions in the U.S. during Q1, expanding by 0.5% year over year. In total, Rabo Research forecasts 2025 milk production from the Big Seven at 326.7 million metric tons. That's an increase of 1% or 3.2 million metric tons, the highest annual volume gain since 2020. However, demand concerns are mounting in many economies as consumer sentiment has waned amid weak and uncertain global economic conditions. The markets, I'll have those numbers coming up next.
Here's the scoop. Soybeans are fueling Ohio's dairy farms, one glass of milk at a time. Nationwide, dairy farms use the equivalent of 229 million bushels of soybeans every year. Plus, high oleic soybeans boost milk fat and yield, making farms more profitable. From the fields to your fridge, soybeans power the farms that feed families. Brought to you by Ohio soybean farmers and their checkoff.
A healthy body needs good food. This summer, the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce is sponsoring Sun Meals, a summer food program where kids eat free. Children under 18 receive healthy meals and no sign-up is required. Locations may be right in your neighborhood. Call 1-866-348-6479 or visit education.ohio.gov/kidseat for meal locations and times. That's education.ohio.gov/kidseat.
The market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. At the Board of Trade, July corn $4.44.5 up 6. December corn $4.43 up 2.5. July beans $10.96 3/4 up 27.5. November beans $10.54 3/4 up 27.5. July wheat $5.43 3/4 up 17.25. At the Mercantile Exchange, June cattle $225.10 down $3.10. June hogs $103.70 up a nickel. September feeder cattle $305.60 down $4.95. This is the Ohio AgNet.